Hi everyone. I've got to apologize. I recorded most of this video about 3 months ago, but because of one thing or another, it just kind of got pushed to the back burner. And what I really wanted to do was to bring you a second video on how to fix the best steak you've ever had. Well, I've finally gotten to it. I'm going to do some post-processing on those videos that I shot 3 months ago. So stay tuned, and I think you will really like steak fixed this way. Hi, this is David with David's Tutorials, and today I'm going to show you the sequel to how I fix the steak that's the best I've ever had before. I've done a lot of experimenting since I made that video, and this is what I have learned. Now, you might not think it's the best steak for you, but this is what I found that's the best for me. Now, when I fixed that steak initially, I did it in the Sous Vide, and if you haven't seen that one, I'll put a link down in the bottom below where you can go watch that video if you haven't yet seen it. And I do more than one steak at a time. Matter of fact, I did several steaks at one time, and instead of eating all of them at once, which I know nobody wants to do, I actually put all the ones I did not eat into the refrigerator. So I'm going to get one of them out right now, and I'll show you what I do with it. Here we have a cold steak. Now, one of the things we need to do is warm up the inside of the steak, because the goal is going to be to sear the outside without overcooking the inside. Since it has already been sous vide'd, we know it's cooked all the way through, so we really don't need to cook it again. All we need to do is give it a nice crispy crust on the outside. I'm going to show you how to do that. I tried it one time, and one of the reasons I'm having to tell you this is so you won't make the same mistake I did, which was I put it in the pan and I seared it, and the inside was still cold from the refrigerator. To keep it from being cold, what I have done, follow me over here, I have filled up the bowl with hot water out of the tap. Now, it's just as hot as the tap water can be, which is right at about 125 to 130 degrees, which is good. Put my finger in it, that's good. Now I'm going to put the steak in that, and I'm going to leave it there for between 5 and 10 minutes, and that's all we need to do until it's time to cook. And there's the steak in the hot water warming itself up. The meat has been soaking in its bag for about 10 minutes. What I need to do now is to get started with all the other preparations. The first thing I'm going to do is to put some butter in the pan and to turn the pan on medium high, because one thing I want to do is I want to melt the butter and get it started getting the water out of the butter. Now, one of the key things to know about this, butter is about 20% water, and water is okay, but you got to understand, if there's water in the butter, it will not cook up above 212 degrees, because as long as there's water in it, the water will absorb the heat up until 212 degrees, at which point it will boil, and after it boils away, then you will be left with the butter oil and the butter fats. The objective here is to put the steak into the melted butter, let the boiling butter put the steam into the steak, which will help warm it up through, and also at this point the water will boil out of the butter and the milk solids will begin to brown, and the brown is what will help put that crust on the steak, which makes it, ooh, so good. Next, I'm taking some paper towels and I'm going to come over here to the steak. I'm going to get the steak out of the water, get the steak out of the bag. Another key element that I have discovered is we need to get the moisture off of the steak after it has sous vide. Now, when you sous vide the steak, it will make a lot of juice from it. We don't want to cook that juice, because that's what makes it stick in the pan. So I'm putting it here on my cutting board. I have paper towels with which I am blotting the steak. Now, you see there's a lot of juice coming out of that steak right now. Don't worry about it, the steak will still be nice and juicy. My wife and I like to eat a single steak divided between us, and one of the ways I found is the best way to divvy it up is just let it balance. If it falls off of one side of the knife, you know that side is a little bit heavier. So I get it where it just about balances, and then I flip it over and I cut it at that point, and we have what is basically two fairly even pieces of steak. The only other thing I like to do is to put some garlic salt on it. I put it on fairly lightly and rub it in. Don't worry, I just washed my hands, so the hands are clean. And now it's ready to go. Let's take a look at how the butter is doing. Oh, that's starting to brown. I need to get the steak in there very quickly. One of the things that we have to do is keep the steak moving. Once it's in there, we just keep it moving. Get the butter on one side, tip it a little bit to get the butter on that end of the pan, flip it over. Remember, the steak is already cooked all the way through. All we have to do is sear it on each side. So we simply continue to cook it until we get a good char on each side. Notice the butter is still foaming. That means there's still water in it. Once it quits foaming, we know the water is gone and we're continuing to cook. Another thing to note is I started it off on a pretty high heat to get the butter melted and get it started boiling off. But as we continue to cook, I turn the heat down a little bit at a time until it's about a medium-high heat. Notice that crust is already beginning to form on the meat. Oh, doesn't that look good? Now, the two things about cooking it in butter like this is, number one, butter smells really good. And number two, it helps put this nice crust on the meat without overcooking the steak. Looking at the steak now, this is looking really, really good. Got a good crust on each side of it. I don't want to keep it on any longer because that would make it cook too much. And we don't want it to cook too much because, remember, medium rare is the temperature at which the steak is the most tender and the most juicy. And of course, the butter makes an excellent sauce. If you have some veggies that are going along with this, you might want to take the rest of this brown butter and put it on the veggies as well. Let me cut it and I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. All right, take a look at what's in the middle of this particular cut of meat. Look at that. Isn't that look delicious? And remember, this cut of meat is not an expensive cut of meat. It's a top sirloin, which we bought on sale yesterday because it was going to be sell by today, and so they marked it down $1 a pound. And I got to tell you, this is going to be some of the best steak you will ever have. Try it. Let us know what you think of it.
Now, you know, you can't simply have just steak for a meal. You got to have veggies, right? Have you ever tried roasted roots?
Okay, here we go with some veggies. Oh, roasted roots. I didn't ever think I would really enjoy roasted roots, but these are exceedingly good. We have in here radishes, we have carrots, we have a sweet potato, and one thing we don't have in here because they just didn't have one in the store when we were ready to make this is a butternut squash. You just dice it up, spritz it with avocado oil and salt, and put it in the oven until it's roasted. I think you got some really good roasted vegetables here.
And there you have it. After many years of experimenting with fixing meals, and many of those were steaks, I can say with good assurance that this is the absolute best way I have found. And believe me, I have tried countless ways to fix steaks. Probably 10 different ways to fix them outside, including charcoal grills, gas grills, campfires, hickory wood, mesquite charcoal, and so on, and dozens more methods in the kitchen, to include such things as stainless steel pans, non-stick pans, even cast iron pans where you sear the steak first and then finish it in an oven at 500 degrees. However, none of these methods compares to how good a steak turns out when you fix it the way I have advised in this video, which is basically cook it in a sous vide and finish it in butter. If you have found an even better way to cook steak, I'd like to hear about it. If you think your way is better than mine or even close to mine, I'd suggest you try a test. Cook one steak your way that you like, cook another steak the way that I advise here, and then try them side by side and ask yourself which one truly is better. Now, tastes vary, so your taste might be different than mine, and you might like yours a different way that I like mine, and that's okay too. It doesn't matter. Just try it and see which way you like better, because there's no way to know unless you try it, right? In any case, leave us a comment down in the comment section down below and let us know what you think of this method of cooking steak and what other methods you have tried that you like. And if you don't mind, I'd certainly appreciate it if you could give us a good old thumbs up on this video and then share the video. Use the sharing buttons down there to let other people know how to fix this really good steak. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you're not a subscriber, why not go ahead and subscribe right now? Click that subscribe button and then the bell icon to be notified whenever we post another great tutorial right here on David's Tutorials.